Now, just for how you guys went about this, you're not thinking who's going to play the most snaps necessarily.
No.
You're thinking
biggest impact.
real impact.
Yeah,
exactly.
Who's going to make the biggest difference on wins and losses.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So with the number one choice in the newcomer draft.
You know, I didn't come up with a good bird pun for this. I should have.
It's a Friday in May.
Flucomer.
Perfect.
There you
Flucomer. I'm going with Jihad Campbell.
Okay.
And I say this because the talent's there, I believe.
Sure.
The potential role is there. The variable here is the injury. I don't know when he's going to be right. We'll find that out during the summer. But I think that if he is healthy enough day one, he's your day one starting linebacker next to Zach Bond. And then I don't belittle the pass rush upside that he has. I think the Eagles drafted him to have a major role day one or year one with the team.
He would have been number one on my board as well.
Yep.
I still kind of need to wait and see about the pass rush. I don't know if I really think that they think that's going to be his year one impact. I don't know. I think a lot is probably going to depend on when he gets on the field. Now I say that, and a year ago, Cooper DeJean didn't get on the field.
Yeah.
And then,
Until week 5, yep.
Until week 5, but then he was awesome.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that we all believe that Vic Fangio is a huge Jihad Campbell fan tells you that he's going to get on the field whenever he is ready to get on the field. And yeah, I think, I don't want to speak for you. I would imagine you were probably between him and Andrew Makuba with the first pick here.
Precisely. Number one and number two on my list.
Right. And so, I think Andrew Makuba is going to play more snaps, probably. He has a more definitive role, assuming he's going to win that job. But I believe that Jihad Campbell is going to, if he is what they think he is going to make a bigger difference to the team.
Yeah, I think when you look at overall impact and opportunity, injury aside, and that's the big thing about it. That's why that was the only thing that gave me pause about whether or not he was going to be number one on my board was all right, how late into the season are we talking where he can get inserted into the field, or into the lineup? But I mean, when you talk about the quality of impact, what he can do in the run game, and then if there's that pass rush upside, he would have the greatest impact to this group.
You think about the places where they have to replace guys who left. And I sort of include Nakobe Dean in guys who left here because, we don't know what we're going to see from him. I think it would be unrealistic to expect Andrew Makuba to be better than C.J. Gardner-Johnson as a rookie. I think he could be.
Yeah.
That's within the realm of possibilities, but you're hoping you're going to sort of hold serve there. I think it's unrealistic to expect that whoever, between Moro Ujima and more snaps for Jordan Davis, you're going to get better than Milton Williams. I think they'll still be fine, but you're, again, hoping to hold serve. Probably the same with Josh Sweat. And I think we probably underrate how good Nakobe Dean was when he was healthy last year.
Right.
I think he was really good. But I think this is the one place where if Jihad Campbell hits, he could be or should be better than Nakobe was.
Yeah, I think that's the upside there is greater than I think what Nakobe did. And Nakobe was awesome last year, was rock solid. But I think that when you look at what his skill set is, there's more reason to be excited about the upside with Jihad Campbell.
If I can ask you quickly on Jihad Campbell, because you're plugged in here, is your understanding that the questions in the league were about when he would be healthy enough to play this season or the long-term health? Because those are two different questions.
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, to me, there were teams. So
is it fair to say the shoulder was short-term, the knee was long-term?
Yeah, I think the shoulders, people were reviewing the shoulders as potentially long-term as well. You don't remove a guy off the board unless it's long-term, right? So he was off the board for numerous teams. And so, those are the teams where we're worried about the long-term ramifications here and the long-term viability of the shoulders and potentially the knee. But then I would say pretty much everybody was all right, he's saying that he's going to be ready this summer, but you kind of have to wait and let that play out.
It's kind of like the Miles Jack situation when Miles Jack was coming out of college, not when Miles Jack was with the Eagles, like a top 10 talent who fell to the second round. And Miles Jack
day would be signed just like when the Eagles signed Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph.
Just like that. Miles Jack had 5 productive seasons in the NFL before the longevity wasn't there. So it's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
I think Andrew Makuba is going to be the starting safety week 1. And again, I don't know that it's realistic to expect that they're going to make an improvement there, but maybe you hope that year 2 of the 2 corners and maybe Reed Blankenship taking on a little bit more of an extra role, you're able to get by there. And listen, maybe Andrew Makuba, the hope is a little bit more reliable than C.J. Gardner-Johnson with a little bit less big play upside.
Yeah, I think the absence of CJ is enormous. I mean, I've on the record, I thought he was a big addition last year. There's the proof of concept in terms of the before and after with CJ. We saw what they were before. We saw what they were after. I think they're going to miss him, and it's the move that I'm most critical of that they made this offseason. And I'm not saying Drew Makuba can't fill that, but I think
where
they're
are
going
we
to miss him.
with? Are we? Is it Drew? He wants to go by Drew.
He wants to go by Drew.
Okay,
but the team hasn't changed it on the roster. But he did say he wants to go.
He
by
wants
Drew.
to go by Drew. Well, then I got to respect that. Drew.
The way I kind of view it, I would almost like caution Eagles fans on this, is to remember how much of an anomaly last year with Kenyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean both playing to the level that they did is so abnormal for rookies to do right out of the gate. So I would expect, look, the way I look at Makuba, if he hits his ceiling, I think that he is a steadier coverage presence than C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I think that he is a better zone coverage player, a better tackler, like in terms of being able to come downhill consistently and take good angles and all that. The expectation for a rookie safety though is that it's gonna take some time. That said, that secondary was just so well coached last year, so it would not shock me if he came in and hit the ground running either.
Ceiling aside, who's the better player on May 23rd, Drew Makuba or Sidney Brown? If they were playing a game tomorrow, not based on understanding, just like the talent level that the player has right now.
Makuba. Yeah, Makuba. Okay. Yeah, if game plan and all that stuff was out, I would say Makuba.
Look, and we'll get to it at some point here today with one of the newcomers. But if neither Sidney Brown nor Tyler Steen start, that's a tough look at that. Now they aced the first round, they got Jalen Carter.
I think it's okay.
Okay.
I mean, it's not ideal.
Yeah.
For both of those third round picks to have lost jobs, but I also think middle outcome.
You don't hit everything. I get
getting a top backup when the third round is probably okay. There are worse outcomes, especially when you nailed the first round.
Sure.
If Tyler Steen becomes a low end starter, high end sixth man, I think that's a fine outcome for that pick.
Right. I think the Sidney Brown one is because they really went out on a limb on that one, and they were sort of puffing their chest out on that one. That was their red star player.
Yep.
I also think it's probably fair to say that scheme change at that position makes as much of an impact as most positions.
Agree.
And injury when you're that twitched up and you get the injury, it affects you.
I would have liked to see him play more his rookie year.
Agreed. You
know what I mean? When they were, when in service of having the team best at the end of the season instead of dilly-dallying with Kevin Byard and whoever else. I think that might have, I wonder if it would have worked out differently. All right, over to you, Fran. Make your number 3 overall pick, then we'll go to break and give you a chance to think about number 4.
Sure. I'm going to go with Kenyon Green here. The guard that they acquired in the trade where they sent Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to Houston. I mentioned it, was it earlier this week, last week, whenever it was. I have more juice for Kenyon Green right now than I did about Mekhi Becton a year ago. Going back through his film, the highs are really, really impressive. This guy is outstanding from an athletic standpoint, from a movement standpoint. The things that I'm envisioning, like Jeff Stoutland being able to do with him on the run, I'm very excited to see that. But he doesn't sacrifice movement and strength and power when you have that athleticism. That's why this guy goes in the top 15 of the draft. What he can do from a mobility standpoint is great, but some of the combo blocks, the ability to just kind of uproot a defensive tackle, get him off his spot, and get up to the linebacker level was really impressive. Now, the lows were pretty bad last year. That said, when I was going back through the sacks and the pressures allowed by that Houston offensive line, this was during free agency after the trade. A lot of that was, I have no idea what the protection call is here, and they made the change at offensive line with the offensive line coach. The center was kind of a turnstile last year where it was a couple different guys that played at that spot. They moved on from Tunsil. They moved on from Green. Now, there's been talk all right, what did Green put his best foot forward in terms of being able to approach that from a professional standpoint, stepping in there as a first-round pick to handle that job. That's something that he will have to make sure. But the same thing was said about Becton last year. And so I think that when you're looking at Kenyon Green, I honestly thought about putting him in my top 2 for the rankings of this list. I think that there's something.
I don't think that's crazy.
He could play every single snap the same way Becton did.